Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Murwa, and welcome to this afternoon session of Reading Aloud. We're talking to our partners at the Story Moja Read Aloud campaign, and we want to know why they are taking part in this campaign and what they hope they'll benefit us from. So we'll start with the lady, Veronica. Could you please tell us a little bit about you and the company you work for?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Veronica Nyakienda Kimani. I work as the academic director for Bridge Kenya. Bridge Kenya is a social enterprise where we partner with the government, communities and teachers and also parents to deliver great schools and also high quality education to the undeserved families and children. So basically at the moment, we are not just implementing education in Kenya, but we're also implementing education in other countries, 6 countries. So we are in Kenya, in Uganda, Liberia, India, and Nigeria. At the moment, we've been able to reach out to more than 10,000 pupils in nursery schools and also in primary schools. We use a combination of Revolution technology platforms, customized, developed world-class instructional materials and teacher lesson guide based on the national curriculums in the territories that you are currently implementing. Yeah, so basically that's who I am. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Veronica. Alvin, would you tell us who you are and the organization you're working for?
Yes, James, and also thank you for the invitation. I hope we are all well and keeping safe. So I'm Alvin Mokaya, working at Diamond Trust Bank in the capacity of head of digital in the marketing department, but I also double up as a sustainability champion. Diamond Trust Bank has been around for 75 years. We started operations in 1946, and we've grown from being just in Kenya to being a regional bank. We have presence in Uganda, Tanzania, and Burundi. And for us, really, we, just like other corporates, are looking into sustainability as a future for the bank. And so looking at issues to deal with education becomes very important because our mantra is enabling people to advance with confidence and success. And education is one of the critical pillars of people advancing with that confidence and success. So we're happy to be part of this initiative, and we hope to make an impact and deliver some positive attributes from our engagement.
Thank you, Alvin. Simon, tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Hello, everyone. My name is Simon, a key account manager at Maramoja Transport. Most people ask themselves what Maramoja is. So Maramoja is basically a technology company that is in the transport space. What our main product is the Maramoja app, a ride-hailing app, whose main difference with all the rest is that we have a trust engine that enables you to move with the people that you trust. That is, anyone in your social network has used a certain cab guy, you'll get him on Maramoja.
So, okay.
Yes.
I have to say when I heard about Maramoja Transport, I initially thought it was a painkiller. I don't know. Do you get this a lot?
Yeah. We actually get that a lot, but our main answer is usually that Maramoja ndio dawa yao kwa taxi space.
Nicely done. So I'm going to ask you why is Maramoja getting involved in a Reading Aloud campaign? And shouldn't you be worried about moving people from point A to point B?
Okay. One of the reasons why we are getting involved in the Story Moja Read Aloud campaign was because we are so passionate about how we have an initiative that we started a while back, that is Maramoja for Schools. And one of the reasons that we started it was because the motivation that kids are really suffering getting to school. And one way of getting kids to focus at school is to ensure that they get to school when they're fresh, get home when they're not so tired. So that's why we were getting involved in this, because it ties up with where our company is headed.
Okay.
Yes.
What about you, Alvin? I know you talked about sustainability, but If you get involved in, let's say, a campaign with, musician or sports person, you're more likely to get huger numbers, more people coming on board and talking about your brand. Why this specific way?
So I think for us, our history with Story Moja goes back to, I think, 2016, 2017, when they had the Story for Chela campaign. And at that time, the rallying call to corporates was come and help set up libraries in needy schools. DTB was the first corporate to come on board and say, we believe in the fact that without society, then there's no business that exists. So what we did is we did set up 3 libraries in partnership with Story Moja. And this is, for us, is just a continuation into this path we've taken. We believe that education plays a very critical role in terms of where your society is going. Even if you look at it from a corporate perspective and your customer base and the pool of resource you have for human resources, education plays a critical role. So we want to be very present in bringing impact. It's not so much about getting a lot of people to know what you're doing. It's about, are you able to bring impact where it's supposed to go? So that's really the motivation behind it. It's not about cloud chasing or anything. It's about delivering impact.
Well done, guys. We need more of you around. Veronica, why is Bridge being involved in this campaign? Why do you feel that you need to be part of it?
Okay, considering that we work with schools, like in Kenya, we are currently working with more than 100 low-cost private schools. And we believe that every single child needs to have quality education. And so this initiative is really important for us because it's basically aligned to our mission as Bridge, ensuring that every child is able to get quality education. And if we participate in the Read Aloud campaign, the key aspect for Bridge as part of the education programs that we usually provide is improving the literacy and the numeracy skills for the children. And so through this campaign, definitely we'll be able to ensure that the children are able to really participate and also enhance their reading skills. So that's the reason why it's really important for us to participate in this campaign.
Maybe you'll indulge me a bit. I'm assuming that you're all readers. What are you, because you're also, I'm assuming you're also personally passionate about reading. What do you read, or what are you reading? Maybe we start with you, Veronica.
Yes, I love reading. So I'm currently reading a book that is called Leap 4.0. So this book is basically an it's looking at the African perspective of the 4th industrial revolution. And basically, when you think about education, we really want to ensure that we're using education in improving and also achieving the SDG goals, the sustainable goals. And one of the key things is just to be able to use the education so that you can be able to build the human capital. And through that, building the human capital, then definitely there's a lot of revolution that is really taking place. So I think that's the reason why I'm reading this book at this particular time.
What about you, Alvin?
James, I've got to ask, does Attack of the Shidas qualify as a reading book on my list?
That's cheating. That's cheating. We're supposed to be reading it on June 16th.
Okay, fine. So I'll put that aside. So I enjoy reading too, books of a technical nature. I'm not big on novels and things like that. So currently I'm reading a book by Chris Voss. It's called Never Split the Difference. It's basically a book on how to improve your negotiation tactic. So I just find myself in a lot of scenarios where you have to negotiate your way around things in work and even out of work. So it's a good read, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, Simon, guys, I hope that we'll put our reading list on there so that guys can also read the books. Simon?
Currently, what I'm reading is, okay, what I'm supposed to be reading is Best of Whispers. My last read was Sinister's Trophy, and the story is quite interesting. I would actually encourage most of you guys to read it because it shows the importance of getting a good education and also avoiding what education helps everyone to avoid. That is the life of crime. So it's in a way, I will say it should be encouraged. It should be added as a set book to most people, to most schools, so that people can now get life skills from there. But I would love to read what Alvin has been reading, because in my line of work, there's a lot of negotiations that go about. So I'll borrow that.
Oh, okay, so I guess we already have a book club going.
Yes.
So, you've been talking a lot about sustainability, and we're talking about, it brings me back to the Sustainability Development Goals, the SDGs, that we keep hearing about, that was signed in 2015 by United Nations. And you've been mentioning, Alvin, that you're part of the reason why you're involved in this campaign is because of the sustainability SDGs. Do you want to speak a bit more to that? Because you just mentioned it over the top. I want to hear a bit more about that.
Yes, James. So we are currently living in what we call the decade of action, meaning we only have, in the last 10 years before we hit 2030, and we have some 17 goals and over 200 targets which need to be achieved for us to say we've moved the world population from, a place where they were on the path of destruction to, a path where we can start seeing there's some light at the end of the tunnel. And so with sustainability, for it to actually have an effect and for it to really be harnessed in the value that it's supposed to have, then you have to be able to involve your business strategy and your business tactics. And so one of the things that we keep on saying is, you look at the SDGs, the 17 of them, you don't have to do all of the 17 because that's impossible. And you just pick a few. As a bank, one of the SDGs we've picked is SDG 4 on education. We've picked SDG 5 on gender equality and a couple of others. And we have specific programs and initiatives around that are tied closely to our business. So it's the way the world should go. We are a bit late, but I think as a country and even as the whole world, we are a bit late, but there's hope. And hopefully by 2030, we'll have some good progress to report from a global perspective and even from a corporate perspective.
Simon, are you thinking about SDGs at all? Is it I suspect you're a smaller company than the DTB, but is this something that you're thinking about?
Yes, sure. One of the reasons, one of the ways to ensure that your company or your business survives over time is also to conform and help the society around improve their way of life. So as Maramoja Transport, we've been focusing on several SDGs. We've done a couple of initiatives to ensure that the community around and the people in Kenya, the people that we serve and the places that we do not serve, are able to have a better way of life. For example, I'll give an initiative that we are currently having. That's the Think Tank initiative, together with Seal Africa and the World Bank. We've developed an app that will ensure in case the water tanks in a certain area, that is mainly in the slum areas, once the water level hits a certain point, a request is formed and sent to the water bowsers around. This initiative will ensure that there is clean water and sanitization is great in every part of the slum. So it's something that we've been piloting for a while.
Okay, so even smaller companies can actually be involved in this SDG discussion.
Yeah, sure. Because the SDGs, basically, if you're able to sustain the global economy is able to be sustained. You're able to sustain the living standards of the area. That means more and more people will be able to afford the product that you're selling. So if you're able to put in effort to grow that, you're able to get to that point.
That is really fascinating and commendable. Veronica, I know that you all are actually in the middle of SDGs because you're in education. So you don't even need to worry about focusing on SDGs because you're in the middle of it. What I want to ask you is, in the kind of work you're doing, what are the challenges that people are meeting to make sure that, for instance, the SDGs are being met? And closer to what we are talking about, how come more people aren't reading in our society?
Okay, so if you think about the SDGs and also like I think I mentioned that for Bridge, our key target is basically the children that come from the marginalized communities, the underserved communities. So you find that most of our schools are usually located within the informal settlements and also within the rural areas. And so they are low-cost private schools that we are running. When you think about the SDGs, as part of our work, the key focus for us is basically the SDG goal number 4 about quality education, and also SDG number 5 about gender inequalities. So basically, when you think about like where the children are also coming from, there are different things that are really affecting the achievement of these goals. Just take an example of what happened because of COVID. And so most of the children most of the countries closed down their schools so that they can be able to address the issues of COVID. And so that really affected a lot in terms of access to the schools and also quality education. So as much as we had a lot of grounds had already been made in terms of achieving SDG goal number 4, there was like a back step that was taken because by the time before COVID, the proportion of children and the youth that were out of school and secondary school had already declined from 26% in 2020. And then in 20, sorry. So by the time COVID was hitting, so before COVID, the proportion of children and the youth out of school and secondary school had already declined from 26% in 2020 and 19% in 2010 and 17% in 2018. And so there was a lot of progress that had already been made in terms of access to schools and also in terms of quality education. But when COVID hit, then it meant that a couple of children were not able to access school. So you find that in such scenarios, then it becomes very difficult for children to be able to, for organizations to be, as a world, it's very difficult to achieve the SDG goals. So especially for children and the youth in vulnerable and disadvantaged communities, those ones are the ones who are mainly more at risk of education exclusion. I know a lot had already been done, especially like in Kenya, there was a lot of remote learning where even the government, the Ministry of Education was running a remote learning program through the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. But when you look at the numbers that were provided, you find that more than 200 million children were actually out of school. So it really affects, and I think a different scenario, pandemic, and also other things like lack of infrastructure really affects in terms of the implementation and also in terms of achieving the goals.
Thank you, Veronica. I'm really worried with those numbers. Did you say 200 million or 20 million?
$1.57 billion were out of school.
Billion. So that's 1.7 billion all over the world? Or?
All over the world. And this is based on the SDG report that was launched in 2020.
That is so horrible.
Yeah.
You're on mute, James. Can't hear you.
But oh, sorry. So you you talked about talking about Alvin. You said that you were the first company to come in 2016, 2017 to help with libraries, and I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Okay, so back in 2016, that time there was a campaign called Story for Chela, which was being done by Story Moja, and it was all about enabling or pushing forward the agenda of early childhood literacy. I can't remember the stats very well, but there was an alarming rate of children who are up to class 4 who could still not read basic books. So numeracy and literacy skills were not at par to where it's supposed to be. So one of the ways in which we thought we could develop or create a solution around it is equipping the schools with libraries, because some of the schools actually did not have libraries. They didn't even know what a library was. And the basic, we had to start from the basics, which was, can we give you books to read? If you give the schools books to read and you challenge the children, here are books, read them, then there's less excuses in terms of why they can't read. So we partnered with the Story Moja at that time, and we did 3 schools, 2 in Nairobi. I think one was Farasi Lane in Westlands. The other one was MCO Joy in Madare, and Sacred Hearts in Mombasa. And we installed libraries in these 3 schools with the aim of getting the children books to read. So it was just a way of us saying, we understand the challenge, and this is how we are coming in to help resolve it.
Have there been any success? You can say that we did this, and now this is what has come out of it.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that happened is, of course, word spread on very quickly that there's a challenge with early childhood literacy, and I believe being the first corporate and we set the pace, we had other corporates coming to join, and so there was a compound effect in terms of us stepping in and showing the corporate world that this is an area that needs intervention, and that ripple effect was created. Back to the schools, we did have children who now started developing a reading culture. Some of these schools, the children didn't even know what a library was, and it was fascinating for them to just see a room with a collection of different books, some in Swahili, some in English, full with illustrations, and all they were required to do is to step in there and pick a book, sit and read, and it was quite also a culture change in schools. And when we went back to some of these schools, what we found out is some of the children, in terms of performance in language and numeracy, there was an improvement. Of course, we cannot fully say it was exclusively because of the impact we did, but we want to believe we played a significant role in establishing that reading culture in the schools.
Kudos, TTB. Simon, when I went to your website earlier, yes, I saw something about, are you a school administrator or a parent? Are you organizing? Because when you talked about your company,
okay,
I thought you were a competition of Uber and Bolt, but it seems that you're also doing school transport.
Yes, basically, Maramoja Transport has been a company that has been offering transport services to all corporates. So, because we all come from somewhere, and during the COVID times, before the pre-COVID and after COVID, and during COVID, we looked at a problem that we could solve. And most of us were noticing that when coming to work, at times as early as 5:30, you'll find kids outside your area who are waiting for the bus to come pick them. So this was a going concern for everyone, because everyone could say schools, kids have to wake up as early as 5. Some kids are as young as 4 years. So that's why we came up with the Maramoja for schools, because we have a whole wide network of drivers who are properly trained, who can handle such scenarios. So we decided, why not come up with a product that can ferry kids to school and back in the evening. But this was a brainchild of another initiative that we had piloted back last year when COVID numbers were soaring. That is the Maramoja for work purposes. That is, we will take most employees to work and back home. At least I know to some extent, very many companies were comfortable and they were able to work to the office. So this is the same thing that we brought and thought, what about schools? What about the kids who are working, who have to wake up very early and get home very late because of the traffic jams in Nairobi, or this long routes that this vehicle has to take to pick everyone and also to make sense. So Mara Moja for schools is basically us giving back, giving a service that is distinguished and that ensures that your kid does not have to wake up so much earlier than they're supposed to. So right now we have kids who are waking up as early as 5, but right now they can wake up at 6:30 and get to school on time.
Wow. Wow. Veronica, you mentioned about, when you talked about COVID, you mentioned that one of the biggest issues was the kids stayed away from schools. Were there other effects? Because I suspect there was more than that. Well, what was the really big effect on kids and their education?
Okay, so I think one is that the children were out of school for quite a long time. It was more than 9 months they were out of school. And so definitely that affected the learning curve for the children because they were out of school. As much as there were a lot of initiatives that were put in place to be able to really support the children and ensure that they are able to continue learning even while at home, the biggest, I think, concern here that had been identified was something to do with infrastructure. So let's just take an example of a child who is coming from the informal settlement. And so you find that that child, the only opportunity that is available for them to be able to learn is through the TV or maybe through the radio. And maybe that child, they don't have power at their home and they don't have access to a radio or a TV. So it definitely means that that child is left out. That child is basically left out. And so so there's the issue of the infrastructure. Of course, there's the issue that really affected the girl child. But let me just focus more about the infrastructure part of it. And so when COVID hit, as Bridge organization, what we did is that we looking at the children that we are currently serving, and we identified that we needed to put up a program that can be able to really support the children while at home so that they can continue learning. And so we looked at different options. I think most of the lessons that were available were when either the children have to maybe learn through Zoom lessons. So if you look at the target market that you're currently working with, those parents might not be able to afford paying for a Zoom lesson. We also looked at in terms of the available infrastructure, in terms of maybe like a smartphone, TV, a radio, and all that. And that way, we were able to identify the best way that you can be able to support the children. So the key program that we came up was called Bridge at Home. For the Bridge at Home program, we were basically developing some study packs for the children. And these study packs were not just unveiled to the parents, only for the Bridge parents, but they're usually open to the public, and they're available in the Bridge website. And this was done not only in Kenya, but also in all the territories that we are currently working in, the different countries that you are currently working in. Aside from the study packs that we are providing, the study packs are also uploaded on the Bridge website, but we were also sharing the same study packs with the parents through the WhatsApp groups, and also identifying some cyber cafe operators within the communities where we have the schools so that they can be able to get a copy of the study pack. And then we also developed a mobile interactive quiz platform for the children. So the quizzes were available through either through the phone and SMS or through the WhatsApp. So it has two platforms that we are using. So there are different scenarios where it really affected the learning for the children, especially during COVID. And I think the majority of when you look at those issues, most of it was more about like the infrastructure and also the cost, because most of the parents were laid out of work. And so the cost aspect of paying for maybe like tuition for the child was becoming quite a an issue for the parents, because I think for most parents, they would prefer to provide meals for their children. And so education becomes an issue if, for example, it's charged at a very high cost. And so we tried as much as possible to cater for the education aspect so that we reduce the learning gap that might be as a result of the COVID school closures. And we ensured that whatever we were providing was being provided at a very subsidized amount of money. So basically, maybe the parent will pay for maybe like 20 shillings to get a study pack for the child, and then the child is able to do the work, or alternatively through an SMS or through the WhatsApp messages that you are sending, and the children were able to do, or using the mobile interactive quizzes.
Fascinating. Alvin, you're a partner of the Story Moja National Read Aloud campaign. So what does that entail? What are you doing?
So interesting. So what we are doing is, number one, we've come on board and we've bought us some of the books, the copies of the books, Attack of the Sheeders. We have sponsored purchase of some of the books we are hoping to distribute to over 100 schools. We are also going back to the schools where we install libraries, and also some of the schools which bank with DTB, some of the primary schools, and we are going to distribute these books. And our staff, my colleagues, also very enthusiastic about this, and they keep on waiting for the day because they want to go in and read with the kids as well, just as a way of interacting with them, and also just telling them, you know, education is the right way to go, and someday they'll make it one or the other. So that's what we are doing from DTB.
So we can expect to see many staff of DTB in several schools across the city in this campaign.
Yes, and not only across the city. Remember, we have 69 branches throughout the country. So you're gonna see our branch in Lamu participating in this. You're going to see our branch in Kakamega. You're going to see our staff from Mombasa, Nairobi, basically throughout the country. It's something where we want to execute with Story Moja throughout the country.
What about you, Veronica? What is Bridge doing with this campaign? How are they taking part?
We'll have the children read aloud on 16th, the time that has already been allocated. And of course, we've been able to provide, because we use technology when we're providing the lessons for the children, definitely we'll be able to provide the reading materials that are required. And at the same time, also just ensuring that we're also running some literacy programs for the children. And on the specified date on 16th, we'll definitely have children who will be able to read aloud together, and then ensure that the recordings are also done.
Thank you. To Veronica, what about you, Simon? As one of the partners for the Story Moja National Read Aloud campaign, what are you guys going to be doing with Story Moja? How are you going to be involved?
We are, being that we're in the transport space, what we're going to do will be the transport providers for the day. Then basically we'll also take part in the event so that we can ensure as many kids are able to read, and we'll have activations for various places that will take various people that are involved. So if you see anyone who will get to that event, most probably they'll be ferried by Mara Moja.
What do you, Veronica? What are you seeing as the future? Are you looking at it positively? Are you a bit negatively looking at it? Like, what is the future of our reading as a society, and how do you see it panning out in the next 5-10 years?
I think I look at it from a very positive perspective. Also, when you look at all the aspects that have already been put in place, as long as we are able to build a culture where children are able to read, then definitely that will have a very positive impact. And I think at the moment, there's a lot of emphasis in terms of literacy skills. And so when, as we continue to partner with organizations like Story Moja, then we'll definitely ensure that we are running initiatives that will be able to build the literacy skills for the children. So I'm not looking at this campaign as a one-off, but I'm basically looking at it as a continual process that will be able to partner even in the future, and just ensure that, one, we are providing the required books in the academies. We are able to ensure that we're setting up maybe like libraries. I think I need to connect with Alvin and just ensure that we also get part of those books also delivered to our academy, so that we can be able to grow our libraries and just ensure that every child is able to get a book. So it's a very positive initiative that Story Moja has been able to put together, because it's time to be, it's time for us to ensure that we are improving the literacy skills for the children, and we are building a culture of a reading culture in our country.
What about you, Alvin? I mean, and I'm going to ask you from the corporation side, because you're one of the corporations. Are you seeing corporations being involved in this process a bit more going forward? And are you looking in a positive way how we're going to get with our reading for not just our children but adults as well?
Yes, definitely. I think from the corporate sector, what you see is there's a lot of push towards sustainability. And it's funny because when you think about it, and somebody might ask, why do businesses need to come in and fill that gap? But there's a research that Edelman did, the PR company, and apparently in Kenya, 68% of the respondents believe that business is supposed to fill in the gaps left by government. So corporates have no choice but actually to come in from a reputation perspective, plus it's just the right thing to do. So they'll come in at some point. For us at DTB, we are looking at the full ecosystem of education. So reading is just one bit. However, if you look at, for example, what Maramoja does, for a child to be able to get to school to read, they need to move from home to school. And I think Maramoja is doing a fantastic job making sure that children are going there. Veronica and her team at Bridge are making sure that it's a bit affordable and using technology. And so there's a whole ecosystem at play here. So one of the things that we've done is also looking at the girl child, and we are saying menstrual hygiene, sanitary hygiene is an issue that might affect their reading culture. So we did start an initiative called Achieve More Girl. We launched it last year, where we're looking to impact at least 30,000 girls within the next few years. And we are impacting them by supporting their sanitary hygiene requirements. And these are girls in needy schools. So we've been to schools in Migori County, in Mombasa, throughout the country, and we're touching the lives of these children, because we understand that there's a whole ecosystem. Before you get somebody out of school educated, they know how to read, their literacy and numeracy skills are on point, there's a whole ecosystem that they have to interact with. And so the rallying call is then for corporates to not only look at it from a one-sided view and it's just reading, look at it as the whole ecosystem. What else does this child need to be able to read? Once we're able to address that, once we're able to address some of these inequalities in our education system, gender being one of them, and that's why the menstrual hygiene issue comes up, then we will achieve what Veronica is saying, which is having that reading culture fully embedded in our learning institutions. And even for adults, I guess for corporates then, as a sustainability initiative is, what programs do you have for your employees, to participate in some of these activities like reading, not only with children, but also at a corporate level, reading and learning opportunities. So all these are intertwined together, and you're right, it's time for corporates to also join in for the betterment of the society.
I don't know if Simon is able to respond. Are you able to talk, Simon? Well, Simon is trying to sort himself out. This is for both of you. Do you think we'll actually beat that world record on June 16th?
I'm positive. So when I spoke to Story Moja, they actually believe that last year we did beat, but we just didn't document it. So look, we Kenyans, we know how to run. I bet we can read aloud pretty well. So I'm really looking forward to us beating that record.
Veronica?
Yeah, I'm also positive that we'll be able to beat that record. Yeah, so I think as long as we really support the children and also provide the materials that are required, then definitely you can be assured that we'll be able to beat that record.
Wonderful, wonderful. So,
James, I just wanted to mention something.
yes, please, let's hear.
Yeah, so I think in addition to like corporates coming on board and also like really supporting, I think one of the key areas that also needs to be looked into is just ensuring that there's also partnership with also the government, considering that the government is also the key stakeholder when it comes to education, like the majority of the schools when you look at it. And so also partnering with the government and also ensuring that there's private-public partnership. I think that would also really advocate and also ensure that we are really supporting and also improving in terms of the reading skills in our country as well.
Okay, so you're talking about corporations, government, and civil society working together.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Simon, the question I was trying to ask, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
I was asking whether you're positive about the future of the reading in this country. Do you see it getting better, or we're just going to be in the doldrums?
I believe if most of us work together, we'll get to a point that the reading culture gets back. Because basically what has been happening is most people have not been having access to books. Most schools, if you go to them, as Alvin had mentioned earlier, they do not have libraries. So as corporations, as companies, as individuals, it's time we start working together to ensure that each and everyone has access to information, be it online, be it books themselves, such that we'll get to a point where it's sustainable now for everyone now can get reading material within the shortest time possible. So the future that we have is all about ensuring our kids read, our youth also read, and we can get to a point that everyone is knowledgeable in one subject or another.
Do you think we're going to break the world record on June 16th?
Yeah, I believe with the preparation and also with the sensitization that is going on, people. I had a scenario where I met someone a while back who did not have access to books, but they once they got access to books, they were really interested in reading, and he actually formed a small book club where he would share the books that he had already read. So I believe once we make the books available, uh, people will be there to read. There'll always be someone to read a book that is available. So I believe we'll break that record.
That is really, really, really positive, man. I hope we do it. So what I'm going to ask you guys now is to give your final statements. What do you wish for this day, June 16th? What do you expect? How do you encourage us to come out? I'll start with you, Alvin.
Yeah, so I think June 16th also coincides as the Day of the African Child. So it's really something that we should own as Kenyans, as Africans, and anyone else who will be listening to this message. I think we should actually come aloud. If parents, if you can, I think that the read aloud session is gonna be only 20, 30 minutes. If you can just, ask to come in work 20 minutes late and just go with your child and participate in this. Let us have, let them see the support coming from the people they see every day, which is their parents, their teachers. And yeah, I think we're looking to have some good fun and we're looking to get the win as a country. And even more important is after that, we're really hoping that the reading culture will start taking root in this country in schools. If it takes root early enough at the early childhood level, then in the next 10, 15, 20 years, you won't have an issue with reading with adults and youth. So we're looking forward to that day, and yeah, we're looking forward to having a good time with the children and bringing that record home. Yep.
Thank you, Alvin. Simon? You.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Sorry about that. I believe on 16th, the record will be broken because I believe in plant a seed and a tree or it will grow in future. So the seeds that we are planting right now through the initiative will ensure that the community at large will be a reading community. And also, we can ensure, we can sensitize people around us to also join in. It will be a short session. That means anyone can take their 30 minutes and avail themselves, be with their kid, come accompany your friend's kid, and we'll have a whole community that knows what is going on. Thank you. I believe that's all.
Thank you, Simon. Veronica will give you the last word.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to June 16, as both Simon and also Alvin, what they've said. I concur with what they've said, and also looking at it's the same day that we are also supposed to be celebrating the International Day for the African Child. And even when you look at the objective of the Read Aloud, it's basically like the initiative is aiming to be able to teach children the culture of resilience and overcoming challenges against all odds, even as we tackle the COVID pandemic, and also promoting reading. And so I'm hoping that this initiative will not just be a one-off, but also will be an initiative that will be able to have ripple effects, and also future will be able to really help the children to have that reading culture. I think there's usually like a saying I really like a lot. It says that teach me and I forget, show me and I think there's only the percentage that you're able to remember, but when you're involved, then you will definitely be able to remember. And so the reading culture and also involving the children to be part of the Reading Aloud initiative, that is such a very positive initiative, because definitely the children will really enjoy being part of the Read Aloud, and also knowing that once they beat the record, then definitely it's something that they'll be really proud of. So I'm looking forward to the day. Yeah.
Thank you, Veronica. If you've just tuned in, you've missed a lot. Where have you been? We've been chatting with Veronica Kimani. She's the academic director at the Bridge Schools. We've been chatting with Alvin Mokaya, who's the head of digital at DTB. And we've been talking to Simon Modama, who's he's a kit account manager at Maramoja Transport. I will now learn to say Maramoja Transport and not thinking of Maramoja as only painkiller. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for spending the last 45 minutes with me. And for those of you who are out there, please, let's meet on June 16th. We have schools, we have many places that we can go and take part. Get the book of Attack of the Shidas, and let's have a nice time. Please have a nice day. Veronica, Alvin, thank you so much. I hope you all have a nice day.
Bye bye. Nice time.
Bye.
I just